with that, I guess I'll take a pause from talking and we'll open it up. Does anybody have any questions or issues that they would like to go through or that they're looking for help on? Nobody ever wants to be the first.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, yeah, Michael, good.
Sorry. I was just curious, I don't know if I've asked you this question. I've asked a lot of people this question, but you're the smartest one I talked to probably.
It's a very low bar, but yeah, go for it.
I was curious if you had any a game plan for learning SOQL with Conga. Have I asked you this before?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so next week, in 2 weeks, we're supposed to start doing implementation with templates and things like that. I don't know if it's email templating or what, but we're supposed to use Conga and do SOQL queries. And I've done some, if then statements and the select from. So I know the basics, but when it gets to curly brackets, they're using curly brackets with Word document. And like, if there's nothing in this box, then don't show it. I'm like feeling very overwhelmed to think about getting all of that, getting up to speed on that.
Yeah. So before I give you my take, is anybody familiar with Conga? Have they worked with Conga and templates and things of that nature? That's on the call that might be able to speak to that.
I have, but it's been a while.
So I think that was Tatiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So question for you then, for the templates, is Conga one of these things where it's straight up SOQL, or is it more of like a kind of a hybrid approach, like merge fields and things like that?
It's a hybrid approach. So Conga Composer is probably the product that you're going to be working with. That Conga has multiple products. They've got Conga Sign, they've got Conga Contracts that helps you with like amendments and legal documents and stuff like that. Kind of just depends what the client is. But Conga Composer does do the merge fields, and that's a point and click interface. And then there's also a tool within Conga to create a button. And within that tool, you can create these queries from what I can remember. So it's a very friendly to administrators. Essentially it builds out that query for you through this tool. So it builds the button for you based off of, whatever inputs you put in there.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
But definitely look into Conga Composer.
Yeah, I know they use Composer, and they have a little box that's called the box. I think it's App Exchange.
Very creative.
Yeah, and it's where, like, when they enter the information, it goes to a PDF and fills that information in, so it turns it into a PDF, I think, and then they can send it out to their clients, I think.
So, Michael, do you have a point of contact at Conga that you're working with actively, or is it just something you're kind of stepping into? Not sure yet.
No, they do. There's a lady there that had to learn it on the go. They call her the Conga Queen, even though she's not really. She's just the only one that actually could pick it up quick enough. And I talked with someone at Conga, but they were trying to sell stuff. So they said to talk to support, but I haven't gotten there. I'm waiting until that week when they say this is it. And I'm like, yeah, right. So then I'll search someone.
Okay. Well, what I think I can do from my side, I don't really have a great answer for you, or I'm not familiar enough with Conga that I could walk through an example of how that would work. But what I think I could do is, to your point, you got to kind of navigate the minefield of the sales team. But if I could try to find somebody that would be willing to join this call and give a demonstration of Conga Composer and just Conga in general, with a focus kind of on new admins or people stepping into the product for the first time, I think that could be pretty helpful. Especially just based on the question, who's worked with Conga? Is anybody familiar with Conga? I didn't see a lot of hands raised. So I think that it might be a good thing to try to get them on here. So as homework, I'll take that on my side to see if we can get somebody from Conga to join a call in a later week.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I have that one on my list. Does anybody else have any questions? We'll open it back up. Anything at all that anyone would like to walk through? I always try to pause 3 seconds longer than it is before it gets uncomfortable, right? Because as it's uncomfortable, then people will start asking questions. So I'll ask just one more time. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to walk through?
So here's a question that may or may not have an actual answer to it, but we have an approval process in place, and we added, or we wanted to add an email alert so that the person who submits it knows whether or not it was approved. And I did it all in the sandbox, and it wasn't sending the emails. And we made sure like the deliverability was set to all emails, the DKIM stuff. Still nothing. Kind of kept making play and stuff. I was told just to put it in the production regardless, and so we did it. But I still was kind of messing around because it's kind of like usually the end of the week thing. But they're trying to find answers, all that kind of stuff, and nothing. And then yesterday, my boss just decided, well, let's just see what happens when I hit approve. And she hit approve, and I got the email, and I'm like, okay. So for whatever reason, in production, it works just fine, but in the sandbox, I couldn't get it to do anything.
Yeah, the first thing that always comes to mind when we talk about doing things in sandbox, when sandboxes are created, I believe this is still the case. I don't work a lot with sandboxes myself with emailing, but I believe that they still append like .invalid or .sandbox onto the email address.
Yes,
so
but
we confirm that, right? That wasn't the issue.
That was not the issue either. No.
Okay.
And we even, because there's that one section where you could, add additional emails. So someone had suggested putting like my personal email in that one to see if the emails were even sending, and that wasn't working either. So it works just fine apparently in production. So it's not really an issue because we got it working, but it's kind of like if you're testing it in the sandbox to see if it works and it doesn't work. I literally wasted a day in the sandbox when I didn't really need to do anything, is I guess kind of, if anybody knows why that might be a thing.
Sandy, it's Lena. So I'm sorry, just jumping on and stuff. Maybe you have to state this. Was there a time variations into your approval? Because sometime that because if it's like within 2 hours or whatever, it'll block too. But I like to do everything in a sandbox and working, with all my clients here in Salesforce and stuff. That is the first attack to do, is go into the sandbox. Definitely, put your personal address and make sure it's not in the spam and stuff like that, because sometime I notice when I do those kind of tests, and especially doing the SLA, it does go into spams or junked. And then for us in Salesforce, we don't get those spams right away. It goes into another box in our administrator. Then 24 hours later, I get it thinking, oh my God, it didn't work and stuff like that. So great practice of doing everything in the sandbox, because I always tell my engineer that and everybody I work with, test in the sandbox before you push into production, because it could cost financial for businesses, right? So check also with your team what the criteria is for securities, and because it has that void, it just might goes automatic filter going into something.
It's just weird though that the way, when we tested it in production, like there was no issues. Like the way I originally wrote it worked perfectly.
There's a different constructive wise as far as the production, because in production it won't come up as void. You don't have that indentation, but in sandbox you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a few things out here. I'm going to share my screen just to kind of show. There was a few things that were mentioned that I want to cover here, and this is where I try to keep the participants over here, so I keep letting people in. Okay, so within setup, if you go into a Salesforce org, I believe, Sandy, this is what you mentioned, where if you go into just search for the word deliverability, right? And when you go into that deliverability page, there's this section right here that I believe that when you refresh the sandbox, this is going to be set to system email only.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that would be the first thing, like I said, that you would check just to make sure that's set to all email. And you said that you've already done that part, right?
Yep.
Okay. The other thing that you could try, and I believe you said this as well, but the test deliverability. Have you tried that from the sandbox?
I did.
Okay.
I got all 16 of them.
Okay. All right. So for those of you that are not familiar with this, this allows you to kind of test whether or not Salesforce emails are going to spam. So what you can do, you come in here, put your email address in there. This email address is my email address. If anybody has questions after the call, feel free to hit me up on that email address. But in any case, if you click send here, and here, I'll just do it. We'll see what happens. You should get, like Sandy mentioned, 16 different emails from all the different Salesforce email servers, the different IP addresses, all that stuff. It'll give you 16 of those. And in theory, if you count them and you got 16 of them, you know that everything is working. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pause my share. I'm going to try to pull my inbox without divulging any kind of secret stuff here. Let's just see. Okay, so all of mine, believe it or not, went to my spam folder. Here, I'll resume my share. So this is what the email is going to look like. It's going to come in as test email for IP address, whatever it is, and then it'll tell you, this confirms you can receive it. Now, for me, it confirms I can receive it, but it all went to spam. So that would be the first thing that I would try to address is why did it go to spam? And if these are going to spam, then chances are that if you have that other setting set to all emails, then something is going on with, or maybe check the spam folder to see if those emails were going to spam, right? So that would be a few things that I would check from the beginning. But if you've already checked all those things, you already checked the user that's supposed to be receiving the email, make sure their email address is correct, doesn't have a suffix on it. You check your email deliverability. You check the deliverability in general of email addresses going to, that user. The final thing that I would check before I would say that we could schedule time offline and look at it together, I'd be happy to do that, would be one other setting here. And I'm going to go into here. There is and let's see, I don't know if I have this in Scratchworks, but you should be able to look at, I forget even what to search for. I think it's like log.
Yeah, it's the log, the email log. Yep.
Yeah, email log files. So if you do a search for email log files, this will actually show you like for every email that was sent out, what happened to it, where was it supposed to go? It'll give you some information there. So the way this works, you go in here, you have to set start date and time and an end date and time, put the email address that should have received the email. And then, it depends on how long it's going to take. Sometimes if you have a lot of files, it could take a little while, but if it's a very narrow window and you don't have a lot of email traffic, this can be done pretty quickly, but it'll let you know once it's finished. And then when you come in here, you can actually look at that log and it'll be essentially, I think it's either a CSV file. Yeah, CSV file. That'll show you some details. So that might be a good place to troubleshoot as well.
Yeah, we even did the DKIM too. I think we had to set that up, but even after we did that, it still didn't cooperate. But like I said, it's just right now it's more of a curiosity thing because it is working in production perfectly, but
yeah, it's one of those things where you lose sleep. You can't figure out what the heck is wrong with it.
But what's funny is it might be related to another one that we're working on. Because again, we've got it in the sandbox and we're doing a flow where everything was working fine, but they wanted to change some of it where instead of doing automated emails, they wanted it to be an automated task because some of the salespeople were sending out the emails on their own. So then all of a sudden their clients are getting double like at the same time. So they wanted to kind of remove that, but they still wanted to have them at like the end, like as a follow-up 2 weeks later, or even 180 days later. But that is where we're now also getting the break. But again, it's the email thing, but that's, I think, one of those unofficial SF things too. So,
okay.
But it could be related since it seems to be emails, it's two different orgs, but it's still an email issue in the sandbox. So
yeah, Dominic, you had a point?
Well, I was going to say, I've always had, I'm sorry I got here a little late, but I've always had trouble with email and sandboxes. So it's no surprise to me, Sandy, that you're getting, doesn't work in sandbox, but does work there. But I did have a question that I never solved about, like, does it always have to put the sending via all the Salesforce gobbledygook when you do mass emails, or is there a way around that? You know what I'm talking about? The send via, when you receive an email from Salesforce, if you do a list email, there'll be
Yeah,
send.
I think I know what you're saying. So instead of sending it as like your individual Salesforce user, you can have your, I think there's system-wide addresses. You can essentially send it as
No,
that
not a
address.
system-wide address, but it actually comes from, it'll come from Bill Kuehler via Salesforce, but a long gobbledygook message instead of directly from your email address, right? It doesn't look to the customer, the end user. I know, anyway, so I didn't know if
No, Dominic, I know what you're talking about. You could actually direct it to a delegated email, a global email, wherever that comes from for your call centers. But that is like a org wide, right? Instead of it coming from via Salesforce, it'll be coming from a call center or a center, and they'll have that public address, whatever the email is coming from, right? It could be Salesforce call center at Salesforce. But
well, I'm really talking about like if I'm a user and
Yep.
I'm sending it from Dominic@salesandtechnology.com, and I grab 20 leads and I send them all an email from a template, right? They're going to get an email from me, but in the actual from line, it's going to be me via the service. I think there's settings you can have that would have it come look like it's coming directly from my SMTP server. But I started to get into it, but never got into it that heavy to figure out. Does that make sense? So I had the issue with a customer, and then it just the way that it looks, and sometimes that catches a spam filter too, right? That's one of the things that will catch a spam filter if it doesn't come directly from the user. If it looks like it's coming from a list server or something like that.
Yeah, I think we had a similar thing that we'd done in our org, but I think that goes back to, and I might be completely off here, but this was like the DKIM settings and everything else to allow Salesforce to send as you, like there are certain permissions and things you have to do. I'm honestly not really sure. And what I might ask is that, Sandy, if this is something that you and your team figure out, I would love an update on this just to kind of see what the issue ended up being. I have to imagine that it's got to be something on the email server side that's preventing receipt of those emails.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like, all the settings in Salesforce are correct. The logic is correct because you deployed it to production and it worked. The only kind of outstanding variable is what happens once that email goes out to when it's being received or not received in your inbox. Those email log files, I think that's kind of the first step to try to figure out what's going on. And then from there, maybe that's something that your network team or your email, team can help troubleshoot.
Yeah, Sandy, this is Forrest. I ran into a similar issue like you before. What happened was that I had a full sandbox that wasn't recently refreshed when I went to another company, and I had a production org where the email was working fine. So I went to our system engineer, and he had to do some kind of configuration to our sandbox to make it work again. I don't know if whitelisting IPs or I forgot what they did, but it started to work after they configured our sandbox. So, on their end, similar to what they did in production. I went through all the trial and tribulations. I actually spent one week on it. Yeah, and I went through the same thing that Bill was saying. And I just went to our system engineers, and it was something on their end, but I forgot what it was specifically.
Yeah.
This is when I was working in the office. This is before COVID.
Usually on the back end, I'll look at the cache and everything to see on the system side. So that's something your system admin, but it does have something with the org email delivery, their setup. So it usually is the case, Sandy. Just talk with your admin and seeing what their regulation is. So,
yeah. So, Sandy, if you figure this out, that's your homework, is to report back and to tell us what the issue was.
All right.
All right, cool. Well, email deliverability. That's definitely one if you haven't looked at. I hope we went through a very high level overview of that. With that being said, let me open it back up. Does anybody have any other topics or anything else that they would like to go through? Either related or completely unrelated from email deliverability.
Yeah, I got one, Bill.
Yeah, Steven.
So I got a client who wants to track all the different time and opportunity stages, opportunity history report. only goes back 3 months. So, but she wants, look over multiple years going future. So I've had a bit of a look, seen some stuff, just creating, some people just add different date time stamp fields on the opportunity. Some people create a separate object. Just wondering, if you've done something similar before or.
Yeah. So did you say that? So as I understand it, they want to be able to keep track of the history of the opportunity, specifically like the dates, times when stages are changing for the opportunity.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, like how long in prospect, how long in.
Yeah. Now, my immediate thought there is that you could use just the like opportunity history table, like field history tracking, something like that.
Yeah, that only lasts for 3 months though.
Okay, that's awful that that's the case. I didn't know that, so I learned something new today. But I wonder, so we had a similar use case. It wasn't opportunities, but we basically wanted to create kind of a custom audit table, so to speak, that had a little bit more functionality than just the field history tracking. So I think you might have mentioned this, where essentially creating a custom object that is the stage name, the previous stage, the new stage, the date and time that the change happened, and then essentially with a before triggered flow, you can basically log the changes to that table anytime the stage on the opportunity changes. Because it's a custom object, there's no history there, so you don't have to worry about it expiring or a rolling 3-month window. Just basically you're recording an entry to that table every time the stage changes. Is that something that you guys have explored?
Yeah, I mean, I just started looking, last half hour. I found like some old articles, but they're all using process builders. But so I'll have a go with before.
Yeah.
Triggered flow. That should be fine.
Yeah. So I think and that's something that we could take just 5 minutes real quick. I might show how I might approach that.
Okay, great.
You guys don't mind. Yeah. So if I were to go into our Salesforce org, essentially what we're trying to do is anytime the opportunity stage changes, and I don't even know if I have any opportunities in here. Let's see. Yeah, we do. Okay. This is another component that I was building. So I've completely destroyed my page here with like the stages and the detail page and everything else. So let me just add that stuff back on here. And then we'll give it a very quick go here. So I'll get rid of that. Let's throw on our details.
Can I just record this bit, Bill? Is that okay?
I'm recording the entire call, so I can share this whole thing with you.
Okay, yeah, that'll work as well. Great.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw related lists on here too, and let's just save that. All right, so now we actually have something to work with on the opportunity. So if I go into setup now, I'm going to go to Object Manager, and we'll keep this simple. I'm just going to go to Create Custom Object, and we'll call this something like Op Audit Table. I don't know. Audit. No, that's really bad. I don't like that. Yeah, let's just call it Op Audit. All right. All right. So this is going to be, we're not going to have a name. We're going to just make this an auto number. We'll do Op Audit. And then if you put squiggly brackets or curly brackets, you can put kind of the format of the number. So we'll do zeros and we'll start at number 1. Allow reports. We don't need a tab or any of this other stuff. Okay. So let me save that. So now we have our table. And then we're just going to create a few fields, kind of the key fields that we're going to need to work with this table. First of all, we're going to need to link this to the opportunity. So that'll be the first thing we do. So we'll create a lookup relationship related to opportunity somewhere in here. There we go. Yeah, we'll keep this all default. Next. We'll grant it to everybody. We'll add it to the layout, add it to the opportunity pages, and we'll save. All right, so that's the opportunity field. Now, just since this is an audit table, I would imagine that you would want people coming in and making changes to this. The stage field is a pick list, but just for the purposes of recording what the stage was, we're going to create a text field, and we're going to call this, just say from stage, and we'll make this, I don't know, 255. Of course, you can make that a little bit smaller based on the size of your stage values, but we'll just do 255 for now. And then grant this everything. We'll do one more text field, which is going to be the to stage. So we'll say text next. So 2 stage. And again, make this huge, even though we probably don't need 255. Just as a side note, you definitely want to take care in how big you make your fields, because it can definitely have an impact on your data storage limits, depending on how many records of this object that you create. Okay, so then the final thing is we'll throw a date time in here as well, and we will call this change date. Okay, and that's it as far as the fields that we need. So now we have, if we look at our list of fields here, we have a from stage, we have the to stage, and then we have a date time that change has taken place. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go into our flow, and we're going to create a new flow called record audit log or something like that. All right, so come in here. This is going to be a record triggered flow. So in other words, whenever a record changes, and this is going to be triggered off of the opportunity object. So when a record is created or updated, I guess you probably didn't need created, but we'll throw it in there anyway, because it'll record the start stage as well. And then because we're not going to be, well, let me think about this. Yeah, I guess, I don't know if we can do before. Let's see. So if I were to want to create a record, oh, people can draw on the screen. That's cool. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go back in here. We're going to edit this, and we're going to change this to an after trigger. Okay. And the only time that we're going to, well, yeah, I guess we could do this every single time. So we'll say when all conditions are met, and we'll say when the stage name is changed. True. Okay, so whenever the stage is changed, that's when this is going to run. All right, and whenever the stage changes, we're going to run a create records, and we're going to say create audit log. We're going to do 1. We're going to use values from our separate values that we're going to specify. And the object that we're going to create, I already forgot what we called this thing. Op audit, there we go. All right, so we're going to create a record of type op audit. And there's a few fields that we're going to want to fill in. We're going to want to get the from stage, the to stage, and then the date that the change happened. So the from stage, we can get this from the record prior. So the record prior special variable here, that's what the opportunity looked like before it changed. So if we just type in stage, we can get that previous value. Now the to stage, we can get that from the record as it exists right now. So it's going to be the $ record variable. Stage name. And then the date, this one we can get from the $ flow. So we should be able to go in here, and there should be a date time, the current date time. So we can just click on that guy, and that's it. So super simple flow, and let's see if it works. So create op audit log record. So we'll save that, and we'll activate it, and then we'll see if I made any kind of stupid mistake. So let's go back to our opportunity. I'll give this a refresh, and we should see our audit table there now. Maybe at the bottom. Yeah, so there you go, op audits. Now, before I actually test this, I'm just going to edit the page, and we're going to make that kind of front and center, and we'll make sure that we have it set up where we can actually see the fields that we need. So we'll edit the page for now. Just as a real quick point, if anybody has a screenshot of this thing that says anything other than moderate, if you send me the screenshot, I will send you a $10 Starbucks gift card. No photoshopping either. All right. All right, so let's see. Let's just throw in related list single, throw it up here, and we'll select our audit. And then enhanced list is the one that we're going to go with here. So we can see all the fields. All right, so I'll save that. And then the very last thing I'm going to do before we actually test this flow is just go into my opportunity page layout. And I just want to make sure that we have all the key fields on that related list. So we're going to edit our page layout and make sure that we have our from stage, our to stage, and our, change date. All right, so we'll make sure that we have all those key fields here on the layout. We'll save that. And then finally, if I go back here and look at our opportunity, we should now see our related list with all the key fields that we need. All right. So we have this opportunity right now. Our stage is set to prospecting. So if I were to go in here and change this to qualification and save, hopefully we don't get an error. So the stage changed. If I refresh here, does our audit log now show? No, it does not. All right. So why is the question? So when a record is created or updated, when the stage name is changed, true. So it looks okay. We're going to create an audit log record. And we're going to set the stage, current date. Yeah, I mean, I think that looks okay. Now to figure out why that's not working. So let's try that. Let's try that again. So we change it to a different stage. Save.
Do you need a link it by its ID?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Do you need a link it like of the opportunity ID?
Yeah, I guess that's helpful, huh? Yeah. All right. So you passed the test. That was a. All right. So to link it, we want to go to the record. Try that again. Yeah, definitely missed that key field there. The record.id will give us the opportunity ID that we need. Yeah, great catch there. So I'm guessing that if we were to if we had a list view that we could look at for this table, I'm guessing that we'll see 2 records in there that are not linked to any opportunity. So great catch. All right, so now if we go back in here, and now if we change our stage to value proposition, there we go. So now we can see what it was, what it is, and when that change occurred. And if I go in here and make another change, save, we can now see that other one. Now, you can see how, this is a very basic kind of audit table or audit type mechanism that we can create, but you can imagine how you can get pretty complex with this, right? Like you can imagine in your flow that not only are we going to create a new record, but maybe you can do some kind of analysis where you would go back, look at the previous record, see when that date, when that date was, do some math to figure out the duration, number of days between that previous change and this change, and then have that as a field there as well.
Exactly what they're after.
Yeah, so you can get pretty elaborate with it. But as far as just the very high level, like how you might create an audit table based on a change of a field, that might be a way to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah. All right, cool. Any questions on that? What we just walked through here?
Yeah, if you use field history tracking, it does not create the initial value. So when you go back to do reports to see how long something was aged in a stage, you'll be missing the initial value and date. And so this is a good utility to capture the first entry so that you can find out that if it was in the initial stage for 60 days, you don't have to go back and create a special report to capture that. I've done that many times.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing that you mentioned when you were asking this question here, let me put that person in. One thing you had asked is the field history tracking that it expires after 3 months. I was not aware of that. But if we look here, I just want to try to find.
So there might be a little bit confusion with that. Like Mary was sending one article saying, yeah, that one. But then I put an article in the chat as well.
Yeah, that's I didn't know that. It's kind of I guess it makes sense. I mean, they can't keep everything, I guess, but yeah.
Bill, can you bring that back up? I thought it said classic at the top.
Yeah, you would think field history tracking though, that wouldn't be dependent on Lightning or Classic.
At all of them, okay.
Yeah, well, required edition, Classic, available in this. Yeah.
But this kind of report though, and I walked away for just a second. Do you ever use snapshots? Because if you're really tracking time over time and changes in dynamic records like, leads, cases, opportunities, snapshots tend to be okay. You just have to, it's not as straightforward as you would think it's going to be.
Are you talking about analytic snapshots or reporting snapshots?
Reporting snapshots. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at that. Now I guess you could use that, but the challenge with reporting snapshots is if you have multiple stage changes within the same day, unless you're running a reporting snapshot multiple times throughout the day, it's not going to capture those. But let's just pull that up just so for those that are not familiar.
Well, I mean, if you're running multiple stages through the day, then you should have field history tracking and have an HR conversation with that salesperson who's doing that every day.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean,
some
sometimes
degree.
the stages might be long. You know, for some companies, it might be, you know, the span of several months. But
Yeah.
you know, for other companies, maybe they're changing
true.
stages throughout the same day. But yeah, so reporting snapshots, for those that are not aware, what this allows you to do is essentially develop a report that's got all the kind of key data that you might want to capture, you know, about some object or multiple objects, you know, a matrix table, summary table, whatever it is. And you can actually schedule this so that it takes the results from that report that you have developed and actually puts those records or puts it into an object, you know, that you can then do whatever you want with. So essentially it converts a report data into records within a table that you specify. So this one, this might take me a little bit longer to kind of put together an actual example, but maybe this is homework for folks that, you know, find this compelling. I'm sure there's a trailhead module on this, but basically, again, you develop a report and then you develop a, you know, a destination object. It'll run the report on a scheduled basis and drop the results into that table. This use case, though, I think this one might be easier just as a, you know, to capture every single change. You might want to do it with a real-time thing like a flow, like a record triggered flow. But this is great if it was like, we just want to capture what all the data looks like on Friday afternoon every week. We want this to run.
There's also with that, just I'll put a little caveat. Depending on the size of your org, if you use snapshot data, remember what the output maximum for any report export is, 2,000 records. So if you're setting these up and, you know, you've got a lot, if you might have to break it down to several reports that you can keep under, you know, I would say an ideal first run of reports of any type of grouping would be somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 records before you have to make your next slice and dice, because it's only going to store 2,000. It's only going to snapshot 2,000 records because that's all a report can export, right? And the other thing is that, and I want to go back to David. There's an app on the App Exchange. It's been a while since I looked at it. I thought it was cool when I saw it, but I never installed it for myself. There is a timeline tool. I think it's called not Drive, or I don't know. I got to go back and look. David Giller promoted it about 2 years ago. He had just found it on the App Exchange. What is it called?
Timewarp.
Timewarp. That's it, right?
Yeah.
It does. So it might, you know, like, because sometimes that kind of report, you could, we just looked at both of those snapshot reports, you know, field history is great, but any other kind of solution you do, you got to wonder what's the real behavioral driver that you're using that for analytics purposes, right? Over time, because it could just be a vanity report that somebody wants, but has no really business using, or that data expires because of the number of field changes you have and the number of objects. You don't have the history you need on it. So
yeah,
it really depends on why you're using a report and who's actually, what behaviors are you assuming are going to be, or decisions will be made because of that report.
Yeah. Now, in the case of opportunity stage history, that's one, you know, even internally within my company that we look at just to kind of see what is the average life cycle of an opportunity look like? And then you can further get down to what does the life cycle look like for this industry versus a different industry. So I can see how that could be useful. So a couple of points then coming out of what you just mentioned there, Dominic. The analytic snapshots, one thing to keep in mind where they get really cool and really powerful is that you can have multiple snapshots, multiple reports that you generate, putting data into the same object. So in other words, as long as you structure it correctly and you have the field names and things like that mapped appropriately, you might take a report that's getting stuff from your opportunity object and putting it in that table. And then you might be running a different report on the order object, for example, and putting it into that table. So you can get all that kind of data in one place so you can run reports on. So pretty cool. Again, if you haven't looked at analytic snapshots, definitely something worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
For Timewarp, this is a Salesforce Labs app, and I'm going to bring it up on my screen here. This is really cool. And essentially what this allows you to do is whatever data that you have, if you have data that has a date field on it, it allows you to kind of put it into this kind of sliding, it almost looks like Journal from Microsoft Outlook for those that are familiar with it, but basically just puts those records onto this kind of timeline view based on their date. It can be customized. I believe they use custom metadata types or custom settings. I can't remember, but basically you could drop this on an account object and then actually have it kind of map out your opportunities, cases. We have a time tracking application. We actually put our time tracking records on here as well. So with a single glance, you can kind of see the history of that account based on all the related records underneath of it. So putting this in the context of the question about the audit log, that audit table that we created, if we configure that to work with Timewarp, we can actually have this where you can actually see when the stages have changed just based on that, that audit records being mapped on this display. So what I'll do is I'll grab this and I'll drop this into the chat. Salesforce Labs, free, really great app, very polished for something that you're not having to pay for. So pretty cool. And it looks like somebody beat me to it. Thank you. Cool. Well, let's open it back up. Any other questions on anything that we just covered or just any other questions in general?
Bill, I have a question.
Sure, Bill.
After the last conference that Salesforce had, I don't think it was a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember the exact name of it. I thought I read something about a new certification, a business analyst certification. I was wondering if you or anybody else on has heard about that or knows anything more about it.
I'm going to pull up the page right now, but is anybody familiar with that? I believe that was in Trailhead DX that they might have presented that.
I have not seen anything else on it other than what they presented.
Can anybody give me the short version of what did they present? So essentially this is going to be not necessarily a technology focused certification, but more of a kind of business analyst type thing. Is that what it is?
I believe you're right, Bill. Could be wrong, but I believe you're right. Yeah. There's two new certs. It's business analyst and forget what the other one is. And they're career based or career path based, I guess.
I think that's really good. I was teaching an admin class just the other, or BSX class actually, which is like an executive overview. And, if we think about this, the system admin certification and permissions, I wouldn't be opposed for the community to start saying, we can't just let everybody who's a system admin have all the permissions of a system admin, right? I mean, you think about all the permissions a system admin has, and then you think about, a brand new admin versus, Bill Kuehler, same profile, much different user experience for everybody, right? And it's one of those things where, because even in the new admin class, we kind of go into and teach flows, which, to me, I said, that's great, but if it's going to be an admin, let's go back to what an admin was 15 years ago with all the limited functionality of Salesforce, yet all of those kind of administrative functions versus the platform app builder, which is more of that, I know admin, I'm not a developer, but I need to automate Salesforce, and that be the criteria used. Because, I looked at a job application a buddy of mine sent me the other day, and they listed all of these things that were really admin, platform app builder skills, and the cert they listed as requirement for the job was a developer. I'm like, well, you're not going to get somebody who understands human beings if you get somebody who's on a developer only path, right? Because user experience and developer experience are typically two different mindsets. And so I'm glad they're bringing these certs out. But I do think in the community, you have to, having an admin cert does not necessarily represent your ability to operate all of the features available to an admin in the profile that's there, right? I think we need a couple of new standard profiles.
Yeah. So business analyst, and then I'm not sure what the other certification was, but I can't find any reference to it. I'm looking through all the Trailhead DX, like top announcements and things like that. I couldn't find it.
I'll go to TNC and see. That's the trainer org. I'll ask them. I'll go look around and see if I can find something there.
Oh, thanks, Dominic. I think he said TMZ. I'm like, wow, they short on
TMZ is
news
hot
now.
on
Like,
this.
what's going on here?
TMZ is definitely hot on this
Okay.
for sure.
That's
Only because of Steve Sanders and his wild lifestyle.
Yeah,
right.
I checked the certification website for Trailhead and it's not on there yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think we were looking in the same place. Yeah, I couldn't find it there either.
Yeah,
They
and
talk
I-
about
and
the
There's
BA
a course
career,
for it
right?
on Udemy for $9.99, literally $9.99, and they're having a sale on it. So
Well, can't beat that. Yeah, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that.
If you follow Tony Martin, she has been a big proponent for the business analyst certification and stuff like that. She has, she even does like virtual summits specifically for business analysts and all that kind of stuff. So I think she actually got to help write questions for the exam and stuff. So, but she would probably be a great person if anybody's actually interested in it.
Nice.
Yeah,
That
Sandy's
was-
right. She did Tony did a post on Twitter about it during Trailhead DX.
Tony Martin. I'm assuming that. Oh yeah, here we go. So I'll post a link to Tony's Twitter. Here we go. Tell me if I got the right person. Hopefully this isn't like.
Did she list both of them or just the BA one?
Just the BA one. The other one was
Yeah, that's her.
William put it in the. It's a strategy designer, so it goes under the UX design route.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, we'll look to see what comes of that.
That's all. That's the information I had found as well. So that's a good idea for the follow, and we'll see. We'll just kind of wait patiently, see what shows up.
Yeah. So, Bill, I'm going to just throw one last thing in here. Maybe I should stop my recording. We're recording for quality assurance and training purposes. But one of the things that I've kind of noticed over the years when it comes to Dreamforce or Trailhead DX or any of these other conferences, if you sit there and listen to all the announcements that they have, you get really excited. You come out of those conferences like high-fiving, everything is awesome. But then you get home and you have to wait 6 months for what they announced to actually come out, right? So Dreamforce last year, I was really excited about Slack. I think I mentioned this on previous calls, like Slack was going to become self-aware, run your business for you. You're going to have flows in Slack, all this kind of stuff. It's coming, I guess, some point. I think maybe summer 22, they're starting with certain pieces of it. But yeah, I think they kind of put the announcements out that things are coming, and then you have to kind of wait for it to actually come to fruition. In some cases, there's other cases where they announce stuff and it's right then and there. But at least for Slack self-awareness and the BA certification, I think we'll have to wait on a few of those. So
yeah, I'm a brand new BA, and anything I can do to training wise bolster my creds would be helpful. But I figured it might just be a patience thing. So I appreciate that.
And that maybe that's part of being a BA. You got to start with patience with your clients, and there you go.
Speaking of Salesforce and announcements and stuff, in about an hour, a little over an hour, they're doing an admin. What does it say? Join the admin evangelist team live for their picks for the summer 22 release. Be joined by some of the favorite product managers to look at the features you need to know for the summer 22. So I'll post that information in the chat if anybody's interested in joining.
Yeah, please do.
Oh, I'm interested. Thank you.
Yep.
And that's going through kind of the highlights of what's coming up in summer 22. Is that what it is for admins?
Yep.
Nice. Hey, has anybody seen release notes yet for summer 22, or is that still pending?
I think they're out. I would have to double check, but I thought I had seen them.
Yeah, summer 22 release notes. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Just having a chance. Okay. Well, cool. No, thank you, Steve. That's great.
Yep.
Well, we have a few minutes left, 8 minutes here. Anything else that anyone would like to go through? Any other questions or topics that anyone has?
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Angie.
Hello. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while. How you been?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I am having an error on a flow. I just created my first flow.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's to trigger an email send, and I'm getting an insufficient access rights. I am sure it's a rookie error that's probably really simple to solve, but I can't figure it out.
Would you be willing to share your screen and kind of show us what you have?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so you got a record triggered flow. Now just kind of walk through this just to see what you have here. If you click on, yeah, let's go to that first.
So I
Opportunities
want,
updated. Stages close
record-
one. Type of sponsorship. Okay. And then if you scroll down, so every time the record is updated and meets the condition. Okay. That might be something to take a look at, because when somebody makes a change to opportunities, you wouldn't want us to send an email every single time they make an unrelated change. So looking at that setting there, only when a record is updated to meet the condition requirements, something to look at, but I don't think that would cause your error here.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, that looks okay. Let's take a look at the email then.
Okay.
Okay. So use values from email alert. Okay. So this is using like another, I guess it's this is an action you've dropped on here.
No, it's the send email alert.
So input is the record.id.
I'll go here.
Yeah, that looks a little sparse, right? So use values around the flow.
Yeah, so I chose opportunity. Hang on.
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. So
Okay. And the error that you're getting, I can see this, I think, over on the right. You have your debug window over there.
yeah.
So this is error occurred, insufficient access rights on cross-reference ID.
Usually when I have this error message, usually the user does not have access to a record, another object.
Yeah, and I am the admin, so there's no reason I shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
But are there permission sets set or anything like that that might be restricting you? Because that's a way that system admins can also be restricted from doing things.
I mean, I've set up everything, so I'm not sure.
You could have hidden a field from yourself in the whole process, maybe.
Yeah, you have to make sure that when you add the field and you're creating it, that you give the system admin at least view access.
Could it also be an issue where I've seen like when you log in as another user and then and then you go back, you log out as them. When it comes back, it's still, you got to reset the whole system by logging out and back in.
Yeah, I haven't done any of that. I haven't added any fields.
Yeah, so I wonder, Angie, if you were to save this and activate it and actually test this on an opportunity, is this a live org or is this one of your testing orgs?
It's a test org.
Okay.
It's a live environment, but it's a test organization.
Okay. Would you mind just going to an opportunity and trying to?
Yeah. Now, one thing I did turn off the flow. Oh, I should have clicked activate there because people could close out sponsorship. I was doing this early this morning before they would really start, but
So this is actually a production org.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Now, one thing that you can do, I've done this when you have no other choice but to test it in production. One thing that I've done is add one criteria into your flow where the opportunity name is equal to Bill's test or whatever kind of unique name you put in there. And that way people can go about their business. And the only way that flow is going to fire is if it was your test record that you're working with.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is the test org is Taffy Sales. I'm the account owner. I'm the opportunity owner. And
type of sponsorship I see there. Okay.
Yeah. Close one.
Okay. Is it throwing the error here?
It was throwing it before when I was on the details screen. So now I am wondering if it worked. It sure did. It worked. I just need to call IT.
You just needed witnesses, that's all.
Exactly.
Well, I'm wondering.
I dropped a help article for that exact error, and it said something. It could be the email template that could be causing it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for fixing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have anytime, no, if anytime, or if you do get that error again, if you're able to reproduce it some other way, definitely let me know. I'd love to kind of jump into that if you can reproduce the error again.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, listen, in the last 2 minutes that we have here, I've already mentioned this once, but I will mention it again. And that is, if you are not following us, or if you have not joined our Military Trailblazer Office Hours page on LinkedIn, please do that. I just put that in the chat again. If you haven't joined our group on LinkedIn, do that as well. I just posted that there. And if there's anything else that I can do to help you, or if you want to reach out to me, you can always shoot me an email, which was up earlier. But the other way that you can connect is with me on LinkedIn directly. And if you make a connection, and then we can chat and do everything else, coordinate follow-up calls, things like that. Always happy to help out in any way that I can. If you haven't done so, like I said, go to that page that's on LinkedIn, because you'll get updates from not only myself, but also from David Nama. And soon Jade is going to be pushing there as well for all the various sessions that we have for Military Trailblazer Office Hours. So I guess from here, I'll just say thank you all for joining. I hope everybody has an awesome weekend.
Wait a minute. I need to know what your t-shirt says.
This is actually my sister company. I got 99 problems, but my code ain't one. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen those pillows that have sequins on them, where it's like one color and then you can rub your hand on it and it changes a different color. I need to get that for this, where I can change it from ain't to is. So depending on the day. But yeah, today I'm ain't. Maybe next week it'll be is, but we'll see. So. All right, cool. Well, thank you all. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Bill.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.